Well, and I'll have kind of extended introduction to give a couple of minutes for more people to log in, because there are 10 people that are signed up. This is a kind of a beginning session of how to edit Wikipedia, and I hope that that we can have future ones where we do more higher levels of editing. I'm just going to show you today basically how to edit your own page in there, and I'm going to show you in slides. Wikipedia is a useful tool, and it's a collaborative tool. It's a social tool that people can use not only for information, but to communicate back and forth with each other. And I'll show you some of those features as we begin. So, and if anybody has any trouble hearing me or seeing the screen, let me know. And I can make the presentation available to you afterwards as well. Let me move the thing where I'll appear to be actually looking at you while I'm talking. So Wikipedia Edit-a-thon, learning to be a Wikipedia editor. I've been interested in editing Wikipedia for a while, but although there's only been a few pages that I've actually edited, and I haven't created any yet, but that's something that I would plan on doing. And what we're going to learn in this session is, very briefly, what Wikipedia is and how it's written, how to create a Wikipedia account, how to make simple edits with Visual Editor, which is Wikipedia's modern, what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG editing interface. And then a very brief introduction to wiki text markup, which is the original, more difficult way of editing Wikipedia, where you have to know certain codes. It's still there, but the newer one has taken the priority. And also how to communicate with other Wikipedians using their talk pages. You can send messages, and it's kind of, you'll see that people communicate all things about topics back and forth. And how to add references to Wikipedia articles, and then finally, how to add images to Wikipedia articles. And just as a side note, Wikipedia is both gratis and free, and it's the free encyclopedia that anyone can edit. It's free in both the terms gratis and libre, where it means that it's free. Think free speech, but also don't necessarily think free beer, because it is free, like in that you don't have to pay for it, but it's also within some bounds free speech, where and it's really sort of community driven as far as what is said. And we'll get into, I know that there's some feeling that Wikipedia is biased, and we'll look at that, but it's basically community driven.
So what screen should we be seeing right now? Should we be seeing a PowerPoint or your Zoom, your internet?
Yeah, the power. Are you not seeing the PowerPoint?
Yeah, we're seeing your Zoom screen and not your PowerPoint.
Okay, let me go back. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me make sure. I bet it's because I switched it. Now do you see it?
Now we see the PowerPoint, yes.
Okay, I think it's because I moved it from one.
Okay, thank you.
Well, continuing on, Wikipedia has 5 principal tenets, or what it calls pillars. First, Wikipedia is an encyclopedia. Second, Wikipedia is written from a neutral point of view, as far as that can be done, considering human beings are writing the things, I should say. Wikipedia is free content that anyone can use, edit, and distribute. Wikipedia editors should treat each other with respect and civility, and Wikipedia has no firm rules. And Wikipedia was founded in 2001 by Jimmy Wales and Larry Sanger, and it currently has more than 290 editions in more than 250 languages, because you could actually start your own Wikipedia thing in your own language if you wanted to. And that's built into the features in Wikipedia. This is a graphic I found that just shows, well, I shouldn't say English, I'm not English language Wikipedians, these are European language Wikipedians. So you'll see that English is by far the most, followed by Swedish, and then the other smaller blocks, you can see that there are many, many, and these are just European languages that have, and how many articles are in Wikipedia, that language version of Wikipedia. And Wikipedia also is part of the larger Wikimedia Foundation. It started as just Wikipedia, but it's branched out into many other things. The ones that we might take note of is the Wiktionary, which is a free dictionary, much like Wikipedia, but just focusing on words. And also Commons, where if you want to load a picture that you have the rights to load or that is in the public domain into a Wikipedia article, you first have to load it into the Commons, and then you put it into your Wikipedia article. Now, just addressing the ideological bias on Wikipedia, because it is a thing that I'm aware of that people discuss, and they're saying, and people have different ways of viewing ideas that are discussed and defined in Wikipedia, and they change those from time to time. They will make changes. This is from actually the Wikipedia page that is about the ideological bias discussion that's on Wikipedia. And questions about ideological bias on Wikipedia are reflected in academic analysis and public criticism of Wikipedia, especially Wikipedia's English language sites, in relation to whether or not its content is biased due to political, religious, or other ideology of its volunteer Wikipedia editors, and any effect it may have on the online encyclopedia. So this is basically acknowledging that there are academic studies that have examined whether or not the content in Wikipedia is biased. And from the second quote, you can see that, I mean, it's basically because it's human beings that are making Wikipedia, and human beings have bias, but collectively, we're supposed to be working toward something that as a whole is neutral. It may have opposing sides discussed, but as a whole, it is supposed to be neutral. But with any Wikipedia thing, that's potentially a work in progress because people are continually contributing to it. So in creating an account, and you might have already created an account, maybe not, but before you create an account, you need to think, what should your username be? It could be your real name. It could be a form of your real name or something else. But keep in mind, you can change it. And if you got to the point where you were really editing a lot of pages, you might want something that would acknowledge who you are in some way, so that people would know that comes from you. But there are many people that edit Wikipedia and are completely anonymous. And just as a side note, in 2007, I went to a session at the American Library Association conference that was about Wikipedia. It was actually presented by a reporter from the Washington Post, and how she had used Wikipedia among other social media things to break stories. And she actually identified the identity of a witness who was in witness protection in a very high profile case. She identified who this person was through edits on a Wikipedia page that was related to the crime that was about to come in. So there, be aware that you have various levels of an anonymity in Wikipedia. This is, I'm trying to, okay, now I can see. When you're ready to create your account, you go to the Wikipedia page. If you put wikipedia.com, you'll come to a page that gives you a choice of languages, and if you pick English, then this is what the English homepage would look like. And you click on create an account in the top right corner, and then you get a page like this where you enter your username, you enter whatever password you want to use, and an email address. And if you ever lose the password, the only way to retrieve your account in Wikipedia is through that email address. So select an email address that you're going to continue to have access to. And then it's really easy to use a visual editor in making your first edits in Wikipedia. And the examples that I'm going to show are on my own user page. So after you've created an account and you're logged in, as you see in the top right of mine, it says Scotland, because that's my current name in Wikipedia. If you click on that, it takes you to your user page, which is just a blank page. There's nothing in it yet if you haven't added anything. It should default to the Edit tab, which I've got the red arrow to, but if it doesn't, click on that Edit tab and you will be in editing mode with Visual Editor. And then you'll be able to just write text however you want, or you could actually copy and paste from something else if you've prepared it in a word processor. And when you have got text that you've entered, there's a number of different ways you can format it. If you highlight the text you want, you can make it bold, as I've done here. It's just like Word, or you can make it into italic, or you can add links as well to Wikipedia with the link button. In this case, I highlighted the word name because I want to add a link to that, and that's a link to another Wikipedia page. So there is a Wikipedia page that is about name and what that means. And you find the page and you add it. That's the simple way to edit a page. Looking at the Wikitext markup, which is the original way of editing Wikipedia before Visual Editor, it can still be used, and there's actually a cheat sheet that you can find. And at the end, I'll show you the resources that are in Wikipedia. It's a markup language, which means if you want to bold text, as you see in the example I have, bold text is coded like this, and it's got 3 single apostrophes on either side of the bold text, whereas italic has just 2 apostrophes on each side. And if you want to make a link, then you put 2 square brackets on either side of whatever you want the link to go to. So it does the same thing as the Visual Editor, but you have to remember, or you have to refer to a cheat sheet to determine what the keystrokes are you need to enter to do whatever it is that you want to do with the text that you've put in. And this is an example of what in Wikitext markup my text would look like, where I said, hello, my name is Scott Lancaster, with the italics, link, and the bold. You can communicate with other Wikipedians, and I've not gotten into that, but I think that the ones that are really heavily into editing find this to be the best part of it because it really is also a social uh, tool. Uh, and Wikipedians communicate with each other on talk pages, which are discussion-oriented pages that are paired with every page on the site. So every page that's on the site will have a talk page, and every user will have a user page. And Wikipedians generally post messages on talk pages for the purposes of collaborating with others, asking questions, and showing appreciation. You can say, oh, this is really a great page. It helped me a lot in the research project I was doing. Or you can say, you really need to add some citations to this one section, or I know can I contribute to this? And so there you can communicate back and forth with each other. Um, so it's usually easiest to communicate with another Wikipedian by posting a message on their user talk page, although an article's talk page can also be used. And this is what a user page looks like. This is Kiel Kanuta. And you can see that it lists the articles that he's created. And this is where I would go if I wanted to send him a message. These are the kind of messages that for example, would be given where you're just telling someone, I made this change or I tagged this. To leave a message, for instance, to Kiel Kanuta, you would click on New Section because the messages are called sections here. And then just the same way as you entered the text in the user page that I just showed, you type out the message that you want to leave. And then one key thing to remember is the 4 tildes. If you don't sign with your name, and you don't have to put the date or the time. If you put the 4 tildes on there, the system will input your username and it will timestamp it so that this person will know when the message was sent and will know who it came from as far as the username of that person. And then how to add references to articles. This is really important from a librarian point of view. For me, one of the best tools or the best uses of Wikipedia as a research tool is not in the content that it's giving me, because I'm not, in most cases, in very rare cases, would I cite Wikipedia as a source. However, where you're expected to put citations or references for the things that you say. And so those are the things that it can be used to lead to something that I could use in my research article. If you want to cite something, for instance, back at my user page, if I want to cite something, I put my cursor at the end of whatever passage that I want the citation to refer to, and I click on Cite. And then you can leave it on this automatic where it will tell if you're putting in a URL or a title of a book or an article, or you can put it on manual. In this case, I put in the URL for the library, and then it will appear like this after it's created, and you will click Insert, and then it will be put into the text. This is what a book citation would look like. And I've just got the text here. This is a reference for a book. And then I want to put a citation at the end of that. I click Cite, I pick Manual, then I select Book, and I put as much information as I can about the book, and then including the ISBN if I have that. Be as specific as you can. And this is what the citation will look like for a book. Similarly, for an article, this is what a newspaper article would look like that I just pulled off of the web. Um, and then after I've got a number of citations in my page, I can put my cursor at the end of or below where the citations are listed and go up to insert and pick template. And then you can type ref list in there. And ref list is an existing template which will format the reference list in a way that will be easy to read for people that are using Wikipedia. And you insert the ref list, and then this is how the page will appear after I have used that template to format my citations. And then I think you should also go back and add the word reference at the top of that so that people know that that's what it is. And then highlight reference and go up to the formatting tab and pick heading so that then it will put a line under it. And this just makes it easier for people to read the page. And also an important reason that you should be have as much information as possible in the references are features like libkey, which the library actually uses. And among other things that libkey does, it will link from Wikipedia references to library resources. And it can't do that unless the references in the Wikipedia article are full and accurate. So make sure that when you put a reference in that it's full and accurate, and then it can be used by something like libkey. And you'll see in this example, this is from references to an article about the Shakespeare authorship question. There are 3 things that you can see here that were found to be in library resources. There actually could be other ones, but maybe that the person didn't put the citation in fully enough so that the libkey does not recognize it as being something the library has. So if you've got a book, it's best to use the ISBN. If you've got an article from a journal, include the ISSN number, because then libkey can recognize it and connect it to the library resources, and someone could just immediately go to that item. And for me, as a academic researcher, that is a key value in Wikipedia, is connecting me to resources that I could use in my academic writing. You can also, as I think I mentioned before, add images to the articles. And you do this by putting your cursor at the top of the page and clicking on insert and then images and media. And like I said, the image is going to have to be in the commons somewhere. So if it's your own image that you have either created yourself or you have found and it's in the public domain, then you load it into the commons, and then you find it here and you insert it. In this case, I'm just inserting a Texas flag. I tell it, use this image. You can put a caption on it. I input that caption, flag of the state of Texas. And then when you insert it, this is what it's going to look like. So with getting started with contributing to Wikipedia, you can edit an article, you can create a new article, or you can go to the community portal, which has lists of articles that you can start with. And when I get out of the PowerPoint, I'll show that to you. This is what the community portal looks like. Oh, and before I get out of the PowerPoint, I want to acknowledge that I got a lot of help and information from Michael Barrera, who used to work at A&M Commerce. He was the in his library, when he was in library school, his internship was with the Gerald R. Ford Library. He was actually the first Wikipedian in residence at that library. His job was to make sure that all references to President Ford and things related to President Ford were accurate and up to date. And since then, many places have hire Wikipedians in residence or someone who their sole job is just to make sure that Wikipedia is up to date and accurate about whatever their thing is that they deal with. Now I'm going to stop sharing and go to the Wikipedia homepage. So unless somebody tells me otherwise, I can assume that you see the Wikipedia homepage, and it changes every time you look at it. It will be updated. Well, I'll show you, and you might not be. When you first go to wikipedia.com, you get something like this. And then I'm going to go to English, and then you get the English homepage. And it's sort of, they update things about what happened on this day, or just, it's sort of like a front page of a newspaper. But I want to point out, remember that you log in or create an account over here. But I want to look at the community page. Well, first, there's Learn to Edit, which will give you a lot more information than what I've done here, especially if you want to try to learn how to do the original wiki text. But the community portal is the thing that I think is really a valuable place to start, because you've got the tea house where you can, as a newcomer, you can go and learn. But what I like is down here with Help Out, because if you see a page that has some kind of problem, like something that should have a citation added to it, or there seems to be a lot of formatting problems or spelling problems, or there's not enough information, not enough detail about something, then you actually don't have to do it yourself. You can just report it as something that needs to be done. And and then it goes to this, and this is updated all the time. And so people that are just starting out can look here if they just want, oh, well, I just want to fix spelling and grammar, or I want to fix the links, or I want to update new information, especially about something maybe that I know about, expand short articles, check references, fix original research issues, improve lead sections, add an image, or translate and clean up. So in getting started, before you actually begin creating original content, you might come in here and just add content that, or edit content that's already there. Let me go back to. And there's a lot of categories for things that need to be updated. And so that's what I would suggest you to do. I did want to point out one thing that I'm going to do. I was kind of interested in the word thon, which is a gender neutral pronoun that was introduced in the 1880s. And so I wanted to see if Wikipedia had an entry for it. And this is called a disambiguation page, where there are several different things that are connected to this word, and these are them. And I find the one that I'm looking for. And I notice they do have this proposed third person singular gender neutral pronoun, but there's no page for it. So at some point, that's something I would like to create, because I find that to be an interesting thing. And there are actually a few edits that I've made in Wikipedia as far as the university, uh, where I've seen that there were things that needed to be updated. Um, if you, I'll show you uh, a page that the magic flute. If you look down here, and Sarah, you might know this, there's actually, in illustrating this, there's an image from a production of the Magic Flute that was done here at A&M Commerce. So if you've got public domain images or images that can be shared, then you can add them to pages. I know of people that on their travels, they purposely are on the lookout for things to take photographs of to add to Wikipedia pages, so that people who need an image of something will have it through the Commons and through the Wikipedia. Has anybody got any questions?
There haven't been any in chat, Scott.
Well, I would like to ask, going forward, because I am interested in sort of setting up a collaborative editing, either of search of topics in Wikipedia, or perhaps specific pages, or even creating pages that don't exist. And if any of you have any ideas for editing projects that we could work on together, for instance, this month it might be something with famous women. The library was just renamed to honor one of our graduates, Velma Waters, and we could make a page about her, or other topics that collectively people are interested in. So if you have a topic that you think we could work on together, you could email me and let me know. And this has really been just sort of a ground level introduction to how to get a Wikipedia account, and then how to make the very first beginning edits in it. As you add things, as you add new things, if you were to create a totally new page, you would get a lot of feedback from people, and you might even get people who see things a different way and want to change something that you wrote. So I would suggest to start out with, if you just go to that community portal and pick one of the tasks under help out about something that you know about or that you're interested in. And that's all that I have, unless there's somebody that has a question, or Sarah or Megan or Fatima, if you have anything that you want to add.
I don't have anything to add, Scott. It was a good presentation.
Thank you. And like I said, please contact me if you have anything that you want to work on together with this. And if there's not anything else, then that's all that I have for today. Thank you.